Evening, members of the common council, council president, staff, residents of Hudson. Tonight, I present the proposed 2026 budget, a plan that reflects our commitment and responsible fiscal management, strategic investment in our community, and sustainable public services. This budget is built on a foundation of careful revenue analysis, thoughtful expense management, and long-term planning to ensure that Hudson remains resilient in the face of economic and operational changes. This budget anticipates continued growth in our core revenue sources. Real property taxes are projected to increase by nearly 4%. The sales tax collections are expected to rise modestly, reflecting the continued vitality of our local economy. While some revenues, such as lodging taxes and cannabis taxes, are below prior expectation, this diversified portfolio of revenue, property tax, sales, pilots, user fees, and interest provides a reliable base to fund essential services. Personnel costs represent the largest portion of the city budget. To ensure that our workforce remains efficient and effective, we will continue selective attrition, beginning with the hiring freeze, which will allow us to manage staffing levels without compromising essential services. We will also reopen conversations with our unions to ensure our agreements are sustainable by continuing to honor our commitments to city employees. In addition, we are implementing a reduction in overtime, capping it at 7% of payroll, which will help reduce operational costs without undermining public safety or essential services. This budget reflects our ongoing efforts to manage the cost of capital projects responsibly. In 2026, the city anticipates over $700,000 in debt service for bond anticipation notes related to the DRI and to the firehouse project. These projects have required short-term borrowing because the grants are reimbursement-based, meaning the city must front the funds. Since the inception of these projects, the city will have spent over $2 million in short-term financing costs. And COVID-related delays exacerbated this cost by extending project timelines. Importantly, 2026 expected to be the final year of short-term borrowing for these projects, and no significant long-term financing is anticipated. This represents a turning point in our capital planning, reducing future debt obligations and freeing resources for other community priorities. One of the significant pressures of our budget continues to be mandated retirement contributions. Required contributions by employees' retirement system and police have increased over $650,000 since 2020, representing an 80% increase. While these costs are largely outside the city's control, they highlight the need for strategic management of both current operation and long-term financial planning. The 2026 budget is a careful balance of responsibility, investment, and sustainability. We are making strategic decisions to manage costs, including selective staffing adjustments, reopening union conversations, and reducing overtime. At the same time, we are preparing to conclude short-term debt financing, which has funded critical projects, and we are navigating rising retirement obligations. This budget ensures that the city continues to provide high-quality services to our residents while positioning Hudson for a financially strong and resilient future. I am confident with continued collaboration, discipline, and thoughtful planning, we can meet all these challenges while building a stronger, more vibrant Hudson for all. Thank you.
Is this open for comment?
Yeah, I mean, you can make comments, yeah, in the public hearing is really what it's for, but yes.
I didn't realize this was a public hearing. I thought this was your presentation. of the
No,
budget to the
the
council.
public hearing, I'm saying this is where usually people make comments, but feel free to.
Yeah, so, as you know, I attended all of the, BA meetings, so I'm not a member of the BA. One thing that I am very concerned about is the use of $385,000 from the fund balance to balance this budget. The fund balance has been going down every year for a number of years. With this use of fund balance, we are projecting to be below the 2-month minimum recommended by the state. So that is a very serious concern. The cemetery, we have to do transfer of funds in the cemetery every year because it does not pay for itself. That's about $400,000 this year. That's about what it is every year. I really think it's time to look at a more sustainable and less costly approach to maintaining the cemetery, because $400,000 a year, that pretty much is what we're taking out of fund balance here, right? Youth department, we did eliminate, as Johnson has noted, we eliminated vacancies, but there are still 6 full-time personnel in the youth department. There's a full-time secretary, a full-time cleaner, 2 full-time rec attendants, and a director. That's just one of the departments. The senior department has only 1 full-time employee. I haven't gone through all of the other departments and their staffing, but my hope would be, hopefully with the 385K in fund balance, that, and I did sit through every single one of these meetings, and I have to credit the treasurer, president of the council, and the mayor, for really doing a lot of very, very hard work here to come to this, to arrive at this budget. It was not an easy thing. A lot of work went into this. That said, I would really like to see this going back to the departments for them to find an additional 10%, because they are the best people to identify where they can cut and what they can cut without undermining their ability to deliver the essential services that the mayor has spoken of. So I would urge every member of the council to read in detail this budget, to look carefully at what was submitted. We did receive all of the departmental requests, and, you know, they, a very close look was taken at all of those requests, and they were by no means met or agreed to. But take a look at the actual budget. Bear in mind, 385K in fund balance, that's going down again. Our fund balance numbers have gone down from, let me pull this up, 2023 was at 3.9 million, 2024 was 2.6. And now we're going to be taking another, and the anticipated minimum for 2025 with the original budget was 2.6 million. With the amended budget of 3.5, we're down by close to 900, about around $900,000 below where we need to be to have a 2-month minimum in our fund balance. This is a serious concern. And I would really like all of you to look at it carefully, to read the details, to contact members of the BEA to get clarification on line items that you may have questions about, but let's take this seriously. And those are my comments. And again, I do want to say, having sat through all of the BEA meetings, a great deal of work went into putting this together. It was not easy. And particularly Heather, incredible work in putting it together every other day, updates and so forth. So this is not a trivial thing that the BEA has done, but we owe it to our community to look at it carefully and to ask questions. That's all I have to say.
I must say,
Let me just add something to her comment. The senior center and the youth center are 2 very different programs.
Yes, they are.
They command different attention and work, and that's why the senior center only has 1 full-time staff, and the center is built up to the amount of staff that they have now.
No, I don't understand that.
unless I missed it on the budget, what was allocated? And was there a request from your rescue squad, as you know, as we know, they were asking, what was the allocation for their request? Did they request anything? How much did we allocate for the request?
There wasn't a determination that was made by the council for that, and I believe Margaret said that she requested information that was never delivered to her.
Which board office?
About the EMS services.
Oh, yes. No, we never got any information about EMS.
Well, what did we allocate in the budget for? Just the 75,000 that we got?
The same that we've always.
It's actually not in the budget.
It's not in the budget?
I didn't.
It's done by the county.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a chargeback of the county, so the
It's not-
county
it's
has
not-
that into their tax and bill on our.
It's not a line item in this budget.
Okay.
Correct.
Vicky.
Yes, I would like to thank the VA. You guys did a great job. But the figures are alarming. we're at the point that we need to strategize and come up with a different plan. Definitely, police department and cemetery are big, it's a big load for the city. There is a lot of talk of merging with Greenport and the police. I don't know if that's even feasible. Also, I'd like to see the budget of the library. We have 400,000. We don't even pay rent there, so I'm not exactly sure how the money is allocated.
But
And
it's done by rent budget.
yeah, I know it was from Irvine, but still, we paid for this, so we need to see that too. I have some specific questions, so I'm not sure.
Mhm.
So if we go to line 3020, it says, electrician services from 2022, it was 3,500, it went up to, the recommended now is 38,000. And what is that?
I don't have the papers.
Oh, they
Sorry,
don't.
but what line item
It's
I can send them.
electrician services 3020.
is what?
Electrician services
Yeah.
3020, went from, 3,500 and it's now at 38,000. The big jump was in
So it's under equipment, materials,
2025, meant was the big jump.
do you remember?
I don't, I'm sure it was a significant equipment purchase.
And then police contracts, I see under police contracts, we have from 52,000 went up to 92,000. I don't know if you know what contracts are these.
I mean, they provide a list of everything that they have in part of the budget.
I can ask, do you want me to ask you later, I mean, tomorrow, or go straight to the police department and ask them? What's better for you?
You should probably go to the HPD because
Yeah.
all I know is the sheet of paper that they've given me that says these are the contracts they need, and we don't know enough about it to question it. to be honest.
Okay.
So they can give you much better insight than I can.
Okay, and I have one more, hold on a second. Street maintenance chips, we have from 69 went up to 900,023. I wonder if that's any money, if you know if that's money we're going to be getting back.
Yeah, and anything 5112, which is chips, it's also state touring
We're
routes,
going to be getting.
paper potholes, paved New York, and extreme weather recovery. Those all have offsetting revenues, so they're revenue neutral. We actually discussed this year, not putting them in the initial budget at all, because that's one of the reasons when people
That's-
say, oh, the budget's gone up $1 million every year for the past 5 years. Well, that's because state touring routes went from 0 to $1 million. You know?
Yeah.
So, but it's revenue neutral, so it has no impact on, departmental expenses or the tax levy or anything like that.
Mhm, mhm. Okay, do you know when they were gonna be receiving those back?
Well, it's like everything else, you do the work
And
and then
then
you have to pay reimbursement. These are a little different. My basic understanding from Rob is he generally likes to only do capital. So basically, they send out, he makes an estimate every year. It's the same estimate every year. But in April or May of every year, he actually gets the notice from the state. So this is how much is actually allocated to you for state touring, and for chips and whatever.
Mhm.
Traditionally, he has kind of done projects every other year to allow the money to build up. It's not like if you don't spend that year, you don't get it. It basically rolls over. So he's generally like major capital projects based on those funds for every other year. That's why if you look at the revenue, sometimes you'll see, or the expenditures, you'll see that it waves. The other thing that I can comment on specific to state touring routes, which is now, CHIPS used to be the biggest one by far. State touring routes is now the biggest one by far. But I know he's been very cautious with that because it's going to be used to offset whatever grants don't cover for the Berry Street Bridge. So I think he's been very cautious about spending that on anything else. Because we're gonna need the money to cover whatever excess there is. Right now, I don't think there's gonna be a lot of excess. But, better safe than sorry to make sure we can cover that.
Mhm.
I just want to say,
One right behind you, Rich.
sorry, as a comment.
Okay, so my questions are about the recurring 2025 budget. So for instance, for lodging tax revenue, it was expected to bring approximately $750,000, whereas we only brought in, we stayed around $400,000. Similarly, for cannabis tax, we were looking, expected revenue was 235, and we're approximately 60,000. So approximately, I don't know if you can answer this question here, but where are we with fund balance now? Will we need to dip into fund balance for 2025 before we even get into 2026?
It's hard to answer that question because until the end of the year, we don't really know everything. I mean, absolutely, some of the revenue projections are not gonna come in as promised, so that's a downside. On the other hand, you know, there's instituted a hiring freeze, so there's gonna be some headcount in for the rest of 2025 that isn't gonna be filled, so there's a cost savings on that side. You know, we did get our third quarter sales tax in, and it's actually the highest amount that we've ever received for a quarterly sales tax, so that's another plus. But it's hard to forecast it. I mean, I do not think personally that we can expect a significant increase to the fund balance at the end of 2025. I think it's possible there might be a level of decrease, but that's the best I can do.
Fair enough. Right. And the projections for lodging and campus tax for 2026, how is approximately is that calculated?
Basically, you'll look, especially if you look at cannabis tax, you'll see that the forecast for 26 is substantially lower than 25.
Right.
And that's based on trends. So basically, we looked at where we were year to date and extrapolated it out and added like maybe a little extra to assume there's gonna be some growth. For lodging tax, we basically looked at, like the same thing. And then made an additional allowance because because we will definitely have a new hotel, because Pocketbook Factory's actually already opened. And potentially, I don't even think we took the other one into consideration, but the one, was it Orphan Warren or, right, Orphan Warren?
Yeah.
I mean, they're making a lot of progress there, so I would anticipate, I'd be shocked if they weren't open at some point in 2026. Those are basically the assumptions made on that front.
I just want to point out something that Heather said in response to Vicky, in your question about the contract, which is why I would like this to go back to the departments.
Yeah,
The police department has the details on those contracts and those costs. It is the departments and the department heads who can look at this and go through it carefully and see where, if at all, they can make some cuts or savings. It really has to come at the grassroots level for that. The other request that I want to make, and this I'm making to you, Tom, and to you, Johnson. With a 3.9% increase in property taxes, which is one of the assumptions in this budget. I hope that this year there will be not just last year we had a public hearing where the public could speak. I would really like to see a detailed, comprehensive presentation of this budget to the residents of Hudson. So they can understand it, they can understand how it was built, what decisions had to be made, and they can understand why the taxes are going up by 2.9%. I think we owe that to the residents, and I hope that we can schedule that meeting, not just as a public hearing for people to respond, but a robust presentation of how this budget is developed. That's a request I would make.
Anyone else from the council before I go to the public? First day myself.
Yeah, Royals in Kenny. I had the privilege of attending most. I think I missed 2 of the BEA meetings, and as you can see, Heather does a very credible job. And she's a valuable aspect of the whole budget process. We're all very privileged that we have someone of this caliber here and that she attends to and has what's in her brain and what she knows about the finances is invaluable to the city. And we're very much well off because of people like Heather and their work and their good work. I agree with Margaret about the sending it back. And then if there's going to be more cuts, then let the departments kind of come up with it. Now I did look at the 2017 budget, and that was just a little under 16 million. So it looks like we're coming, no, I'm sorry, it was a 2020 budget. That was a little under 16 million. And it looks like we're coming in right around that spot. And if I remember correctly, I think they started before before the BEA started cutting things like the extra garbage truck and the street sweeper, which were big expenses that were asked for. Those were cut. We were up to around 19 million on request, somewhere around that. Yeah, so there were substantial cuts. There were substantial cuts that the BEA did in order to bring it down to this point. And I watched the deliberations. I think I missed 2 of the meetings. And everyone was well considered, you know, and with the regard for, you know, making sure the city ran efficiently and that everything was tended to. Now, as you know, when it comes to the library, I'm a big fan of the library. And I was looking at the older budgets. In 2017, the library got $120,000. Then in 18, it was raised to 250, and this is referendum, granted, referendum. 19, it was 50, somewhere like 21 or 22 went to 3, and then 350 and 4, where this is the second year where it's at 4. Now, I've been advocating that the library extend its hours, or to return its hours to the pre-COVID level, right, Tom? I mean, this has been on, what do you think? I requested, you know, that I have a resolution that wasn't forwarded by the president about prevailing upon the library to actually, you know, go back. Just, I'm not even asking that they extend their hours, just go back to the way it was. So that may be something that we can prevail upon them. And then they have kind of a restrictive policy on the computers. So there's like, so they get more money and they limited the services. Now, all they're really asking for is we get our library back. It's a simple thing, Tom. It's a simple thing. I know, it's dear to my heart. I think that's about all I got to say. Maybe we can prevail upon the library to, you know, reconsider its intransigent stance on limited services.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public or department heads?
I have a question about the graveyard, and it might sound really stupid, so apologies in advance. Since there are soldiers buried there, I thought there was federal money that came to that. Is that completely wrong?
I don't know. I didn't you have to answer that.
Did anybody answer that? No? I thought it was federally protected land, and so because it was federally protected, because of the American military, that there'd be federal money towards it.
I think if it's a federal cemetery,
That us would have the right to it.
right? Well, it's a good question to look into, but I think it has to have a certain percentage of federal or something to it. But I can look into it.
Okay.
We have,
Because it might
he's gonna do a presentation in an hour or so we can ask him a question.
Yeah, because there might be untapped money there.
Good question.
Yeah. Thank you.
Crystal Hines, Fifth Ward. I would just encourage the BEA and the council to find a balanced budget that the council can approve. I think it's a really bad thing to start the year with a budget that's in deficit. Things come up unexpectedly throughout the year. We all know that. Expenses that the city doesn't anticipate to make that deficit a little even more. So just will encourage you all to find that balanced budget, whether it's cuts, whether it's finding money from someplace like Greenport to kick into the services that they use here in Hudson, but I would encourage you all to find a balanced budget.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public?
Just want to clarify one last, sorry.
Yep.
I mean, both parts, the old part and the new part. There's Revolutionary War soldiers and there's modern recent soldiers, so the whole cemetery is what I want to clarify.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else?
Have there been 0 vacancy fees collected over the years?
I think so. I think that is correct.
I mean, that's an area where we could actually put some money.
Is there a copy of the budget available or either in or online for the public?
I can post one tomorrow morning. Oh, I can't post tomorrow morning because I'll post it Wednesday.
Heather, I know you're gonna discuss it later on, but since everybody's here, then people may be leaving. How much have we collected up to now from the backtrack taxes?
We collected about $890,000. The list has gone from 151 properties down to 76. So the outstanding balance is still about $2 million. Shockingly enough, literally 4 properties have half of that. 4 properties is $1 million.
It's $1 million, yeah.
Wow.
And I think you're listing them later on. We're gonna hear from it, the report.
Well, just at that level, but I can also publish the revised.
So-
list on the website on Wednesday.
So these 4 properties are not the ones where we're doing installments.
Correct,
They're not. They're gonna,
not at this time. anyway.
okay, at some point, I think, the attorney sent a second letter, right?
Haven't done that yet,
Oh, yes.
because
So,
we've been waiting, but there was the confusion
Yes.
about the second installment agreement. So, the plan was to issue a new demand letter along with information about the existing and the new installment agreement. We can't do that until after the public hearing, I believe, is now scheduled for the 12th, I believe. So shortly after that, the attorney will be sending out a letter with a one sheet that explains the 2 different payment plan options, as well as a brochure from Housing Resources that's offering free foreclosure advisory counseling. So we
Do
want to
we-
make sure we're giving them those tools.
and do we charge interest?
Oh, yeah, every month.
Okay, good.
Oh, yeah, every month, by law. It's not.
Okay, but those 4 properties, I assume they're well-to-do people to own that. I don't know who they are. But, we can definitely charge interest, which is, what is the percentage?
1% a month.
1%.
That's regulated by state.
Okay, good.
Not the city.
So
So
once-
so it'll be a demand letter. Last time I think we gave them either 15 or 30 days. And after the second round is done, Housing Resources is also gonna send out their own letter. In addition to having the brochure, they're gonna send out a letter directly to the people, again, offering their counseling services. So I'm gonna provide them with the list information for that. And then basically after, that second period of time is over, is when we're gonna start the actual legal foreclosure proceedings, which starts with publishing the list with the county clerk and, ordering title searches, and the title searches, the expense of those gets put onto the people's property as well. And then, you know, all the legal requirements, so a lot of communication that has to happen legally.
So, and these are not affecting these will affect our receivables, but not exactly the budget, because these are receivables of past budgets
In
that
terms,
have not been collected.
in terms of tax revenue, it has no impact on revenue at all. The revenue for the entire levy is recognized January 1st in the budget.
Exactly.
What will impact the budget, though, is the collection of interest. So there's regular interest on property tax. As most of you, I think, know, we also are required by law to collect delinquent school taxes on behalf of the school. After 2 years, those become the city's responsibility in full. We make the school whole. After 2 years, we make the county whole after 1 year, and the city ends up owning all of the receivables. We've already seen a bit of a spike in those numbers, I think and there's also a third number. So there's interest on the school tax bills, there's interest on the city and county tax bills. There's also a small fee that the city tags on to the school bills, basically because we're responsible for collecting them. So those 3 items would all have an impact on the budget. And I expect, I think for all 3 of those line items, we're already at the 2025 estimated budget number. And that's with 2 more months to go, another demand letter coming out. And then we also, every November, after we get the delinquent school tax file into the system, we send out, my office sends out a letter to any property that has any back taxes at all on it. So generally, when those go out, we see a nice bump in terms of people coming in and paying off their tax bills too. So interest penalties will impact the budget, tax revenue will not.
And who is paying the legal fees? Yeah, I'm saying if there is a foreclosure and the person that owes the money, isn't that supposed to pay the legal fee during the
To
proceeding?
the extent that we can identify specific work associated with the foreclosure, we will try and add that onto the tax bill. we will add, when we pay for the title searches, we will add that, we'll have
Okay,
to
good.
pocket for it, but it'll get added to that property. To the extent that we can identify the legal expenses and apply them against the property, we'll do so. It's, a little challenging because at what point do you, when you start with 150 properties and you end up down to 15, at what point are you allocating expenses? That's a determination that would have to be made. There's also no way, as far as I know, to add any other expenses, including, the time of my office and how much time we're spending on this. And it didn't used to be such a problem because, we would take over the property and then we would sell the property. And once the taxes were paid and the water sewer were paid and all the other dumpster things were paid, if there's anything left over, it was the city's. They changed that law in 2023. There was a federal court ruling that said you have to basically give the money back, which is fine, except there's no clarity in terms of these issues. So for example, in my opinion, if we're spending, 100 man hours in my office, we should be able to figure out what the cost of that is and add that across all the properties too. But there doesn't seem to be any guidance on that, and as far as I know, there isn't any specific, like no municipality has tried to, do that, and then either got dinged or said, no, that's a perfectly acceptable plan, and I think that we're gonna be the city to start that,
Yeah,
so.
I understand. Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, on the subject, it just occurred to me, I know a lot of municipalities have tax lien sales. Is that something that's a possibility?
Well, that's basically what we're doing through the foreclosure council.
And so would we possibly anticipate some money coming in from that in 26? Is that a possibility?
No, because as I just said, it's being really saying that any additional funds over what was owed on the property and any directly application expenses go back to the property.
Then if you're selling a lien and there's interest on the lien, okay.
Any further questions or comments?
Are the school be like with the different taxes, 1% still for interest?
It's for the 2 months that we were holding it and paying it off on a monthly basis until the point that we make them whole after 2 years, it's 5%. Once it is paid in full to the school and it becomes the city's ownership of the receivable, it changes to 1% like everything else.
Okay.
Oh, council members, can I have a motion, introduction second to receive the mayor's budget message and the BEA's resolution with proposed budget for 2026? Introduction?
This is just to receive
Yes,
it.
correct. Mary? Sure. Second? Jennifer? Okay, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, a public hearing on the proposed budget will be held on Wednesday, November 19th at 5 p.m. Can I now have a introduction and second to adjourn this special meeting?
Tom, are you planning to schedule a presentation of the budget to the people beyond just a public hearing? Will there actually be a presentation and explanation of the budget to the residents? Last year, that did not happen.
I think you could do that. In the meantime, can we adjourn this meeting? The adjourn date. Peter?
Motion.
Second? Yeah, let's say.
Let's stay with
I can second.
Vicky's.
Oh, Vicky second?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All in favor, saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, this this special meeting is, stay tuned for the, special meeting at 5:45.